Welcome to Ready Layer 1. It's a crypto podcast that focuses on the NEAR Protocol ecosystem as well as the Aurora EVM ecosystem.
And this week we're talking to Alex Shevchenko, the CEO of Aurora. This was a really exciting conversation, Jared, that we got into, I think, both the high level and the low level stuff within Aurora.
Oh, yeah. You could tell like his Explain Like I'm Five was one of the best Explain Like I'm Fives we've had. And then you turn around right after that and get into some super technicals with him. And so I thought that was a really cool juxtaposition in the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, Alex has been interviewed quite a lot lately, and so there's a lot of different interviews you can find with him. But what I think was really special about this conversation that we had with him is that we got into some of those points that were really both Aurora and NEAR specific, and so people who are interested in what's really happening on Aurora, how it actually works, what their long-term vision is, more so, we really kind of dig into all of that, as well as like the power of crypto long-term.
Yeah. And, I say this on past episodes, Aurora is such a juggernaut. And Aurora with NEAR and how they all work together, the UX, UI, the whole process is really nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So we really hope you enjoy this episode. Say someone just came to this podcast, they're new to NEAR, and they're like, oh, Aurora, want to hear about it. How would you describe Aurora to them?
I would say that Aurora is a compatibility division of the NEAR network. And the compatibility part is the compatibility with Ethereum. So you can run your Ethereum applications on top of NEAR blockchain with the help of this magical thing that is called Aurora.
You haven't explained like I'm five, but I feel like you really you kind of have that.
It is already.
Yeah. Totally. That's awesome.
Yeah. I can do like with the cars, stuff like that.
We have
you have your old car, but now you're putting a better engine into it. An old car is kind of Ethereum, right? And a better engine is the NEAR protocol. And now these two combined is Aurora, literally.
That was the best Explain Like I'm Five we've ever gotten. Because that was a true Explain Like I'm Five.
Yeah.
Awesome, man.
That's such a great answer. And I think when people hear about Aurora, I think some of the questions that I always hear first are like, why? And so what would be the best use case to tell someone of like, why is something like this important to the ecosystem?
From my point of view, like it's pretty straightforward. So Ethereum is overcrowded network and it cannot scale fundamentally. It won't scale, never. Ethereum 2.0 is an absolutely different concept, right? With the ideas of additional roll-ups on top of it and stuff like that. But in general, EVM itself, it cannot scale. And the only way how we can remedy this is actually have more EVMs, right? Like there is no other way except for having more EVMs. That actually, all of these things, or like this simple idea, actually brings us to the following outcome. Like we need a place where we can launch many EVMs, and these EVMs must be able to work, and all of this should be efficient. So, what about EVM? Do we have appropriate EVM to launch? Yeah, there are lots of implementations of EVM, right? Like Aurora uses Sputnik VM, the EVM implementation on the Rust language. Mm-hmm. And what about the place where to launch these EVMs? Like this should be a blockchain for sure, but now it needs to be scalable. It needs to allow for additional shards and more computations and stuff like that. And this is NEAR blockchain. So super simple. You just need to take EVM, deploy it on NEAR, and that's it. That's literally the only way how you can scale.
Super. Right.
Yeah. There are no other options.
I mean, you say it's simple, but I know it's probably it was a lot of work to get to this point. Of what you guys are doing. And I heard you in another interview talk about that you guys are probably doing the most complex smart contract work in the world. Can you talk a little bit about kind of what that process looks like and how you guys are continuing to develop this ecosystem?
Oh yeah, I still believe that we're probably doing one of the most complicated smart contracts, and we're doing it. We're developing it and releasing it and putting it in production, and trying to hedge our risks, or like at least protect ourselves and our users from the risks. It's pretty hard. all of the updates, everything that we are doing, it requires thorough testing, deep, lots of time that are spent on the reviews, internal and then external ones. The actual time to market for our tech that we are developing is like 10 times longer than just the development time. In order to make sure that our users are protected. And still, nobody is perfect. And still, we understand that even after multiple audits, even after many super smart people looking into the smart contracts, there might be problems. That's why we need to have bug bounties. And just recently, we have paid out the second biggest bug bounty in the world. 6 million was transferred to the hacker who found a critical vulnerability in what we developed, and it is really needed, because when you have hundreds of millions and even billions at stake of user funds, there is no other way for you except for putting pretty big bug bounties. So process is complicated, but it is super interesting for techies to tackle this and actually have these great ideas, but actually transitioned into something that is productized and that is working and that is stable, and that can actually show the value of the blockchain ecosystem to ordinary people.
So I'm an ordinary person, right? I'm definitely someone who uses blockchains and layer ones. Like, for example, I've gone on Aurora Plus. The Aurora Plus to Rainbow Bridge to Near Wallet is the greatest thing. I tweeted, can anyone appreciate how good that is if you haven't been in crypto for several years? And is Aurora Plus and Aurora, so Aurora is the EVM, is Aurora Plus a sort of a dashboard that's on top of that allows me to track certain things, or how do those work together?
Yeah, so from our point of view, user experience is the biggest problem of the current blockchain vertical. When users need to think that every time when they interact with the system, they need to pay something, and then the payment is not constant, and then maybe the transaction is stuck, and then they need to redo, and maybe something is rolled back, or maybe your transaction is get actually sandwiched or MEV'd or whatever. That's kind of very worrisome thing, because that requires users of some services to understand how the protocol works. It's like if YouTube would be asking me to understand how their content delivery network works, and all of the many different servers that are located all over the world, and which server need to stream to me the video, right?
Right.
It is super complicated. We need to move technicalities of the blockchain down the stack. We need to move them down and make them completely transparent for the end users. From our point of view, it is absolutely worth putting lots of effort into this and making sure that that user experience is elevated. And once we are getting there, it would mean that blockchain would have more adoption and will be a little bit easier for ordinary Web2 people to come on board. Aurora Plus is our solution that is implementing this vision. We are trying to make the access to the blockchain much simpler and much more straightforward, with the simple concepts like free transactions. Everybody who created their Aurora Plus account, they're having 50 free transactions per month. They do not need to think, when they're using these transactions, they don't need to think about what is the base token, where to get it, do I need to bridge it somewhere, or maybe I need to do the KYC on the centralized exchange in order to get this token, stuff like that. Actually, we do believe that the free transaction evolution, or revolution, that must happen. Well, first of all, we believe that it must happen, and transactions on the blockchain should become through kind of subscription model, or even just completely free, and the third party paying for these transactions. And we believe that this is going to make absolutely the same revolution as the mobile, as in mobile networks, because in the end of 90s and in the middle of 90s, we have been paying per second of our call, and it was very disturbing.
Right.
It was not very convenient to use mobile phones back then.
No.
And now you have automatically renewed subscription for what, like $15, $20, $100 for some amount of gigabytes. Are you actually checking the amount of gigabytes that you have?
Right.
It just works.
Yep.
It removes the cognitive load from the user, so they can be more efficient. This is what we believe is the future of the blockchain, and this is what we are trying to implement in Aurora Plus.
For the part of how you're not charging for those, how are you like doing that? I mean, there still is obviously gas, right, to make a transaction. So what's actually happening in the background with that?
Oh, going into the technical stuff, right? So here, the thing that helps us is the unique architecture decisions that are made inside of Aurora. Technically, all of the Aurora transactions are actually NEAR transactions because they are executed on the NEAR protocol. So how Aurora smart contract works is the following: user creates their own Ethereum transaction, sends to our RPC, and our RPC wraps it into NEAR transaction. This NEAR transaction means a pretty simple thing. This thing is, hey, Aurora smart contract, please execute your method execute with this payload, and the payload is Ethereum transaction. And once, and in the code of the Aurora smart contract, in the code of this method of the smart contract, it actually takes this Ethereum transaction, analyzes it, checks what is the sender of the transaction, and executes it on top of spins up the EVM and executes it. While the last thing that is happening within this execution is that the user funds, user base token, and then the gas price, like the gas price multiplied by the actual used gas of the transaction, and this amount of base token of Aurora is transferred from the user account to the RPC account. So, so literally, user believes, since everything is transparent, user believes that he, as absolutely the same way how on Ethereum, he is paying some portion of his base token to the protocol as a fee to miners or to whomever, right? But what in fact is happening is that he is paying these tokens to the RPC, while RPC is paying NEAR to the NEAR protocol. So second part of this thing is completely invisible to the user, but it is the thing that makes a transaction run. However, the first part of this, it can be different. Literally, it is in the hands of the RPC to tell to the user what is the gas price for this transaction. What would be for me as an RPC okay to take as a payment from you for the execution of this transaction? And for example, for first 50 transactions a month, RPC can tell that I'm okay in case the gas price is zero. But once it is done, well, now, buddy, you need to pay 0.07 K, which is the current gas price in Aurora. So this is actually how it works. Moreover, the payment per transaction can be substituted with something that is more smarter, like a subscription in this case, because the user, in case he can be identified and RPC is capable of understanding who is speaking with the RPC, he can, the RPC always can send back the zero gas price, no problem, but the payment can happen actually off-chain through ordinary means like a bank transfer. And this is actually something that we are looking forward to, and we are willing to. That's the extension of the Aurora Plus into the subscription models.
Okay, so when that gets handed off to NEAR, that gas that happens there, Aurora is taking that cost on instead of passing it to the user.
Yes, it is Aurora RPC who is paying this NEAR cost. Literally right now, from time to time, the ETH that is paid for the user transactions that is collected, because the base token of Aurora is ETH.
Right.
So this, literally ETH is transferred from the users to the RPC. RPC, from time to time, it is not happening at the moment of transactions, but from time to time is selling ETH into NEAR, and NEAR tokens are paid for the execution of the transactions. A good supporting piece for the free transactions is actually that Aurora DAO has launched NEAR validator that generates new NEAR tokens, and these NEAR tokens are actually used to pay for the user transactions.
That was going to be my question. That was where I was going with that. Is that what the validator is actually covering that cost? Yeah, that's
a validator
really
covers that cost. Validator covers that cost, and everyone who is delegating to Aurora validator, well, first of all, they are capable of, through that delegation, paying for these transactions, but also in return they're also getting Aurora tokens. So that's not that bad deal. It's not like you are getting no returns on your delegation with Aurora validator.
Right.
Yeah. And I was gonna say, you were talking about a subscription based a second ago. So I noticed that you worked with Mr. Brown Artists, and you did the Aurora bots. And if you hold an Aurora bot, you get more free transactions. Is that using an NFT and using the mint? Is that sort of a way you're thinking about you doing a subscription model? Is that the point, or is that more for fun and branding? Both I'm down with.
That was well, first of all, it was just a cool idea, and Momakin was coming with this idea, and we were thinking that we actually can create, with our infrastructure, with everything that we do, we actually can create NFTs that do something.
Yeah,
totally. Not just images, right? But it's kind of very nice way how to demonstrate the tech. That was more of a demonstration of what can happen, and obviously one of the first kind of big collections in the Aurora space. I was recently, obviously I do not have an Aurora bot, unfortunately. I was not winning that that raffle, but oh my god, there's some prices on endemic NFT marketplace for Aurora bots, just insane, like 10 ETH.
I mean,
well, lucky people. What can I say?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was a really cool idea, and I just thought that was really nice. That shows that, like, so the Aurora and NEAR ecosystems, not only are you clearly connected through the car engine analogy, but you're also, as a community, reaching out to each other and building and showing use cases for NFTs and stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I extremely appreciate when teams are coming, they're asking questions, they're trying to get some support. I really enjoy conversations with the teams from the ecosystem. The other day I was sitting until 2 o'clock in the morning, trying to help one particular team with their pitch for the investors, because they would like to raise a round, and they need some help. So and it was okay for me. Like, I really enjoy. So everybody who is in the Aurora ecosystem, if you need any help, any kind of friendly advice, we are happy to provide this to you.
That's going to be the clip I pull and play on social, just to every person who does it, because that's such a nice thing to say. Is like, only in the Web3 space can someone have access to someone like you, right? Like, can you imagine, like, in Web2, just like, hey, I'm going to go ping some owner of a tech company, and they're going to sit with me, like, and that happens across the board. And Joe, also sometimes, like with devs, you can ping them on Discords.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We are like, some people are thinking that like Ilya or myself or maybe somebody else from the community are, like that magicians sitting in an ivory towers and thinking of spells and how to cast a spell on something. No, we're just ordinary people. Like, you can meet us, you can see us on the conferences, you can just come grab a coffee or whatever, speak about different things. I believe the most important thing is that, staying human always. And be simple and straightforward, and then people will follow you. I do not know charismatic leaders that are super distantiated from the ordinary people, I would say. So they are just one person among all of the others. So this is exactly what is happening in NEAR and Aurora ecosystems.
Yeah. No, I along these same lines, just the whole Web3 ethos. What really attracted me a few years back in getting into it is I was a bit young in kind of the first .com boom, the late 90s, early 2000s, but I was old enough to understand what was kind of going on, and I was seeing a lot of that, a little bit of the Wild West, but also like people trying to all help each other. It was not this what we saw in the mid 2000s of like, just try to raise as much money and everybody was out for blood. I feel there's a lot more of this ethos back in Web3. Do you feel that the same, as a CEO, as a co-founder type, to be able to be part of this community that actually feels like you are on the cusp of something that's going to change the technology landscape?
Absolutely. This is what keeps me up for the last 7 years since I'm in crypto.
Yeah.
I was doing research. I was doing my PhD in high performance computing on hybrid architectures. Many machines working on the same problem all together, and because of that, kind of the transition into blockchain distributed systems, these algorithms that combine in multiple machines together, that was pretty straightforward to me. But when I understood that a major problem of a trust to a centralized authority is something that is solved with this technology, independently of crypto, independently of DeFi, independently of NFTs, but just like the core value of the blockchain technology, I thought that like it is going to change the world, right? Sooner or later, I want to take part in it. I want to make things happen faster. I would love to leave my footprint in all of this stuff, because it is on the edge. It's not like you are developing another match 3 mobile game, which doesn't mean anything to the world. But every day I feel that I'm working on something that actually matters. And this is something that really gives me energy, and I believe energizes the whole Aurora Labs team when they are developing the protocol.
No, I'm sure.
First off, the decentralization aspect of the space is, I'm very like, that needs to be right, like that, because if we don't have decentralization, you just have like a buggier version of Web 2 centralization, right? Like, it's like, you don't want that. Like the value, the huge value to me is the decentralization of the space. So my wonder, like, as things kind of evolve, you've got the Aurora and you've got NEAR, and they're connected. But over time, what happens once both things become fully decentralized? Do they then take on lives of their own? Do they merge? Do they go apart? Like, is there an end goal for Aurora?
From my point, I have a following simple concept for Aurora and NEAR. Aurora is an EVM in general, is a simple runtime. Though Solidity developers are one of the most expensive developers at the moment in the market, actually they are just oversold, right? The things that they are doing are extremely simple. Like it's just, well, there are some kind of specifics of the EVM, but the concept is very, very straightforward. You can literally teach EVM in schools, because just like one by one lines of the codes you just execute. In case you're calling another function, you go into another function. There is no multi-thread in there. There is no kind of complicated stuff, and in case there is a failure, everything rolls back. You do not need to think about the fact that like you need to roll back the changes. This is a very, very simple, straightforward runtime, and because of this, it stimulates the innovations, and it stimulates the use cases, and it is easy to create use cases. On the other hand, it has a problem. It is not scalable, and this is what we see in the Ethereum blockchains and in other EVM compatible chains. So that's the problem of this standard. On the other part of the spectrum, we have NEAR, an extremely great technology, a next level blockchain, next generation of the blockchain. It is focused on the scalability. It can scale. It already it already scales, right? And it can scale infinitely with advances that NEAR protocol team needs to implement within the following couple of years. So that's a super great thing, and this is a pure jewel of the technology. But the runtime and for ordinary developers to get there and write their smart contracts, it becomes super complicated. Now you need to think of the things that, you know, things can be executed in parallel. Maybe some portion of your function can be mistaken, or for example it fails, and then you need to think of the rollbacks, and then you need to allow for the gas that is allocated back then, and all of the complication that there are different shards, things are not synchronous. Flash loans, how the flash loans actually can work on this, because like it's not a single transaction, like super complicated. Better
Right.
for me to stick with the EVM, right?
Mm-hmm.
So literally, I see that these are kind of different pieces of the bigger picture. EVM, simple runtime, fast innovation, simple applications, required for 9 of 10 of the developers who are working there, can be taught in schools. NEAR is a high performance runtime for the bigger applications that can use as a sub-modules applications on Aurora. And this is something that you need to learn in universities, and this is only for 1 out of 10 developers.
Cool.
Actually, we already see this kind of pattern starting to implement, and I'm glad that it's not only in my mind, but also other people are sharing this. So, for example, just a marvelous piece of development was done recently by Ref Finance team. Ref Finance is the native AMM on NEAR. So what they did is that for some transfers or for some swaps, when they understand that the swap can be more efficiently done on Aurora, they do the following. They are taking user funds, they are bridging it over Rainbow Bridge to Aurora, they are doing the swap on Aurora, they are bridging them back and then giving back the resulting tokens to the users. And all of this is just a single NEAR transaction.
Wow.
So that is just a marvelous piece of tech.
And the user never knows it's happening, right? Like someone like me, I just click the button. That's it.
Exactly.
That's
So
awesome.
this is the difference that I see in between NEAR and Aurora runtimes. Aurora will be as a simple place. Most probably on Aurora there will be much more applications working. Aurora will utilize in the background the great stuff of the NEAR blockchain, like high throughput, low transaction cost, and scalability. That's true. On NEAR runtime, there will be core complicated applications that are combining different pieces of Aurora ecosystem together, and aggregating stuff and all of the complicated stuff there. So match 3 games, come to Aurora. Content delivery networks go directly to NEAR runtime. That's kind of the difference. And I believe these two things are going just to grow together and enhance each other.
Yeah. If you don't mind, I'd like to go back a little bit. So when you talked about bug bounties and the importance of that, one of the things that I've come to appreciate is you yourself are personally very upfront and transparent, and you get out in front of it. And one of the things that I think is a little bit different that people maybe aren't used to is that, one, things are being reported immediately, right? So here was the breach, here's what happened, here what was, and this is all happening within 24 hours. Where in, I'd say, the non-Web3 world, right? Like if my bank gets hacked, I might not hear about it for 2 years, right? Like they just try to keep it away from you and abstract it. How do you, as the face of some of this, while I think it's very well appreciated, the transparency, is there any fear that possibly scares people off when they hear some of this stuff because of the immediacy, because of the large numbers of it? Hey, someone minted, 1 trillion tokens, like that those kind of wild numbers. How do you feel about that going forward?
I feel it like in my family, in childhood, my mother always told me that it's better the bitter truth than the sweet lies, right? So Like the truth with the blockchain technology, the problem with the truth with the blockchain is that it is observable by everyone, right? And look, it is either you who tells that something bad is happening and you're trying to mitigate it, or next hour or next week somebody else is going to tell that something bad was happening with your technology and with your solution, and you are not updating everyone about this stuff. Like, I for sure do not want to be in that situation, and that's why we do believe that information sharing is super important. And in case something is happening, like, you really need to communicate. And this is actually something that we have in Aurora Labs, the development company, as a part of our culture. One of the main principles, one of the key values that we have is ownership. And ownership obviously means that in case something is working not the way that you expect it to work, you need to notify everyone who are influenced by this change and make sure that they understand what it means. So this is just a part of our culture. We cannot do things the other way.
I mean, I think for most people, where, if you're coming into this space, as part of the allure of it is the transparency, is that they understand, look, most of the stuff that you've been dealing with, outside of this, they're hiding things from you. It's about, a lack of transparency, a lack of access. And so, and while speaking for myself, yes, I grew up in a fairly privileged way. I've had enough experiences in my life where I understand that these opportunities are not there for everybody. And that is where I think this technology is so super important, of being able to provide that. And how can, I guess, again, not just Aurora, but the whole larger ecosystem continue to get that message out, where, because I feel like, and I'm sure Jared feels the same way, that so much of the conversation is dominated by just, the NFTs or the degenning of everything, versus like what is really out there for the world. Like the message of it all, of like why this is so much bigger, because like in the news, it's totally dominated by, NFTs and scams and like the over leveraging and all this other stuff. But really, like, we know what this is.
Like we know.
So for me, I was not. I born in Eastern Europe. I born in Ukraine. For us, and I'm my childhood was 90s, just after the Soviet Union split into independent states, and that was a pretty horrible time back then. So the whole world actually was broken apart for people who have been living in the Soviet Union. They were collecting money and they were putting it in literally the only bank, the state bank, and they were hoping that once they're going to get to their pension, the government is going to take care of them. And now everything was broken, like nothing was there, and everybody became extremely poor because of this. And it was not a lot of faith in the government in general, everywhere, from Belarus, in Ukraine, and to Kazakhstan, right? Nobody was truly believing the government, I believe it was just the period of establishing of a new democratic societies in some of the countries. In others, unfortunately, not. Now, so and because of this, because I was grown in that period, and in general, many people from Eastern Europe, they do not have the trust to the government. They are not blindly believing the fact that the government is going to take care of you. Everything is going to be good, independently of how good you are, independently of how much money you have earned, right? You just take your taxes. We're going to pay your taxes. We're going to take care of you. Everything. No. I'm not the type of person who believes it. And instead of this, I'm constantly, I have been constantly thinking of what can be improved. How can I not only believe to the counterparty, but actually can check that the counterparty is not lying.
Right.
And from that point of view, the blockchain with an ability to actually check that something has happened, an ability to understand that my property is registered somewhere on the something that is immutable, and not just a book that can be burned out like it was when Gaddafi came to power in Egypt. He just burned out all of the registries.
Right.
When I understand that I don't know, the cucumber that is delivered to me from my supermarket that I used, and I can check the supply chain, how it was traveling, and what was the farmer that was growing this cucumber, and I understand that it doesn't have lots of nitrates and all of the stuff, so it is safe for my child to eat this cucumber. When I can check it, when I can check all of the other stuff, when I can check what my bank is doing with my money, then obviously, and when this information is transparent, then obviously it is a better place to live. And this is something that I'm willing to devote an extremely big portion of my life to build this future for everybody.
Oh man, I'm so glad people like you are doing this, because trust is a tricky word that I think can often be misused to mislead people. Like, just trust me. Like, I would rather not have to trust you. If you're doing positive, we don't need trust. Just make it trustless, right? So that, first off, is great to hear. And like, I think for the last century, there's been so much so much money made off of the time and also the knowledge of people who are unaware, and the opening of blockchain, I think, will minimize that and maybe decentralize the profits some. And that's what I'm hoping for. And I'm starting to see things like that happen, like people being able to actually manage their own funds and maybe put it in Aurora Plus and get, and build wealth for themselves, even on a micro level, where at least in the States, you need to have a large sum of money already to even get to do that. So every time I see a new project that's like DeFi based on Aurora, I'm like, yes, that's just like one more building block to help.
Yeah, I'm absolutely with you. There is an insane kind of inequality in between people in general. From one side, it is because of the different experience of the people, right? And people, for example, startups are seeking successful founders in order to come to them and consult. They are not going to seek for a plumber to consult how to do a pitch, right? From the other side, plumbers that are only in the beginning of their career, they would like to find an experienced plumber to explain to them what to do. So from one side, the inequality is there by default. From the other side is what we are doing in order to remove it and help actually everyone to get kind of similar rights or similar opportunities in this life. Unfortunately, many governments are doing steps absolutely in the different direction. They are imposing some limitations on who is capable of investing, who is not, whether you are accredited to be doing these things or not, right? And this is kind of a little bit strange. Obviously, they are claiming that they are protecting the citizens, and they are willing to, you need to be at some point of wealth in order to understand how money works. Literally, this is kind of the zero step that you need to make. But for many, especially for people from the poor countries, for bankless people that are unable even to have a bank account, like this is absolutely, kind of insane canyon that is in between these two people, two types of people. So let's build bridges for these canyons. Let's help these people come closer together.
Absolutely. I know accredited investors, and I've also had conversations with people on Discord that are way more high level financial like awareness than an accredited investor who just gives money to somebody who then has that skill set. So I'm with you. Joe, if you want to jump in, so I could go deep down this rabbit hole the rest of the show, but let's.
No, I wanted to, I mean, there's a lot of different stuff here. One of the things before we get too further down some of these other topics is a few months back now, time is so weird, maybe it's even longer. There was a discussion that came up with Aurora's validator that it was possibly going to overtake the network because of the reward structure and everything else. And that conversation kind of went away. I know it was kind of a hot topic for a little bit, and I followed along the discussion back and forth. And I think you posed a really excellent answer about that. Can you kind of just go over like what the concern was and then like where we are today with the Aurora validator?
Yeah, one of the community members was saying that the way how the incentives are designed for the Aurora validator, since people are staking NEAR and they are getting Aurora tokens, and depending on the amount of Aurora tokens that are distributed to the community, people might find it more beneficial to stake with Aurora validator to some, at least to some extent, in comparison with other validators. Because for other validators, the actual staking rewards are more or less fixed with the NEAR blockchain. There is a fixed emission of 5% of NEAR token supply over a year, and then 4.5% of it is actually also like 90% of it is distributed to the stakers and to delegators. And then the difference in between NEAR validators is just on the cut that the validator is taking. And Aurora validator was introduced in a fair, like pretty new concept. And then it might have happened that many stakers from the NEAR ecosystem is actually going to stake with Aurora, and that was the concern. So I was saying that that mainly this thing, that's a great direction of thought, but this is not the question to Aurora itself. You just put Aurora outside, imagine any other product and any other project doing this.
Right.
It is possible with the technology. This is something that like, in case you're start to restrict it, it means that you're creating censorship inside of the blockchain, right?
Right.
So it is possible, but now there must be some kind of handle or some kind of force that actually ensures that the ecosystem of validators develops in a more decentralized place, or in a more decentralized kind of setup. And this force naturally is NEAR Foundation. So it is NEAR Foundation who needs to make sure that that different things are there. So they are, for example, NEAR Foundation is funding the development of the projects who are taking care of the decentralization, or for example, they are working with the liquid staking protocols that must, delegate only to the validators who are below 33% threshold or something like that. So that is kind of a natural way how you have kind of different forces in the ecosystem. But in general, from my point of view, let me put it in a super simple way. The success of Aurora dependent on the success of the NEAR blockchain and the liveness of the NEAR blockchain. In case NEAR is not working or NEAR is hacked, Aurora is hacked too.
Right.
And moreover, in the other direction, it's also true, right? In case something extremely bad is happening with the Aurora ecosystem, then everybody are going to be in a very, very bad mood. So also people in NEAR, right? So just because of the fact that in case there is a hack on Aurora, people can breach the stolen money, exchange it on Ref Finance, empty up the pools, and that's it.
Right.
Yeah. So everything is going to be bad. So like, I do not see Aurora as a competitor to NEAR. I see that we are just the teammates. We're like in the same boat, and we are trying to move to the sunset together as friends, right? This is one thing, and there is another thing, is that in case we are starting to think about this type of problems, then we are actually stopping on a halfway. There are many other different things that we probably also need to bring into consideration. For example, the things that that on the Rainbow Bridge smart contracts at some point in time it was locked more than 1.5 billion of assets, and in case NEAR validators, maybe not a single validator, no problem, but multiple NEAR validators will collude and will do the incorrect transition of the state, and then they would just empty that 1.5 bill pot out there just because of the way how the Rainbow Bridge is implemented, right?
Right.
Because anything that is happening on NEAR, like it can be matched, right? So they can empty that pot, right? How to ensure this, right? Before bridges, these type of concerns were not in place. All of the mechanics for the security of the network were all of these mechanics are based on the native token and the value of the native token. So now, because of the interconnected, globalized world of the blockchains, now things become more complicated. So in case you would like to go down that rabbit hole, let's actually put into consideration many different aspects of the decentralization and making sure that nothing like that is happening. And take a look at this as a whole picture, because I also believe that this is something that we really need to do, because from my point of view, again, I'm not an expert, but the thing that happened with Luna and that insane crash, I do not think that this was just spontaneously something that is done.
Right.
I think that there is a probability that it was a coordinated attack, and some people are actually get lots of leverage out of this, which means that somebody was not thinking of the great setup of the overall system, right? You can blame stable coins, algorithmic stable coins, you can blame something else, but in general, like in case this was actually a coordinated attack, this is just a great example of the fact that we as a community really need to think of how to govern things and how to work with these things.
Kind of along these same lines with centralization, decentralization. So I kind of had shared previously a quote from Jack Dorsey talking about the state of kind of where crypto is nowadays, and his concern is that all the VCs and the LPs are going to do the same thing they did to Web 2. That's going to centralize everything, and it's just going to be more about pulling out profits and return on investment, everything else. NEAR has obviously taken money. I'm not sure, did Aurora raise money as well separately? Okay, so
yes, we did.
So how do you square something like that when you hear something? We've obviously been talking already about the importance of decentralization. We've talked about the importance of what this technology really does, but when you hear somebody who's so prominent in the community of crypto talk about these concerns, how do you put all these pieces together for someone?
So I do believe that the world is not only black and white, and when people are just measuring things that decentralization is white and VCs are black, from my point of view, it means that people not understanding something, right?
Right.
I was tweeting just recently a very nice video, very nice GIF about VCs helping the projects. It's like a man was filming a highway with cars, and he was just like making look that he pushing cars forward and stuff. It's like VCs are helping their portfolio companies.
Right.
It was just a nice joke, right?
Yeah.
But from my point of view, there is a reason why VCs exist, right? And this is capital, right? Just like founders need to find capital in order to build stuff. And in case they do not have this capital, well, then they will not be able to find it. At the moment when the public sales or IDOs or whatever would be able to get anywhere close to what VCs can offer, then obviously this will be an alternative to VC funding. At the moment, it is not the case. Usual public sales and IDOs at the moment, they are capable of getting what, like $500,000 US, while for kind of big project for NEAR Protocol or for Aurora, this would not be enough even for a month of existence, right?
Right.
So especially with the the price tags on the audits, right? Just for this, or if you think of the bug bounties,
right.
So like that's why VCs are here. They are providing capital, but it's not only the capital that they provide. For example, like Aurora was doing a round last summer. We started to do this round, and one of the kind of ideas of that round was, rather than get the funding, because money was scarce back then in that market. But besides of the funding, the idea was actually to create an early ecosystem. And that's why in the first round of Aurora, there were more than 100 investors, the majority of which are not VCs. They're just individual angel investors, founders of Ethereum protocols and Ethereum applications and stuff like that. So that was a very complicated thing, but I was doing it intentionally in order to create this early ecosystem and have many people who are actually going to share the success of Aurora project with us, and they will see the value in doing this. But for VCs, for example, it was one big partner for us. They are our partner at the moment. They're working in the Aurora ecosystem. But when I have been speaking with them, they were saying, well, Alex, look, you're like a no-name project, yet maybe you're going to be big at some point in time, but right now this is a super small project. Like, we can put you in the waiting list for our integration, and most probably it is going to happen in the end of 2023, somewhere there, or maybe it even won't happen because big projects are coming, are skipping the queue.
Right.
And then I said to the VCs, hey guys, like, you want to get allocation in this round? Fix this problem, because I cannot fix it. I cannot convince them that I'm going to be a big project. And some of the VCs did it actually, and because of this partner came back and said, okay, we're changing our mind, we're going to work with you. And everything happened. They were putting a little bit more of a belief in us. Because of our partnership, everybody are appreciating what is happening here. Everyone got to the better position. It's like there is one Pareto equilibrium when nobody is doing anything and everything is bad, and there is another Pareto equilibrium when everybody are trying to do something for the good, and we get into a much better world. And everybody gets lots of value for themselves. So with this additional push, we just push this Pareto equilibrium towards the better option. So VCs actually can help, and the bigger the project is, the more VCs actually can help. So for example, one of the topics that are becoming pretty important when the company gets to the level of 60-70 people is hiring of the experienced C-level positions. And like, if you're a founder, if you created a startup and you are getting to that point, like at that moment in time, like, you even do not understand how to interview these people. You're kind of understanding what you want, but really, like, you are not an expert. For example, you need to build up the kind of customer success or partnership success team. You understand that your partners need to be satisfied, but you do not understand whether you need to build a portal, or you need to get on the calls with them? Is it okay to have them in the Telegram chats, but Telegram chats are not connected to the CRM system? Do you need to force them to go to the emails? How this, like you don't understand this, but like you need to hire a person who needs to manage all of this stuff. How can you interview? And this person can cost, like several hundreds of bucks per month, per year, right? And like that's a lot. Like and the expertise of the VCs here, they can actually help you to do the interview. They can actually share the knowledge, connect you with others who already passed that point, and kind of share the knowledge and stuff like that. I believe the bigger company gets, or the bigger protocol gets, the more value it can get from the VCs.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I kind of like, there's only so many hours in the day, and if you're building basically like the framework of an ecosystem, that's good to know that like 2 or 3 hours of your day where you could be figuring out these like high scale problems, you're not interviewing people. You know what I mean? You're like, that's good. There's only so many hours in a day. So
yeah, absolutely.
Good to hear. Joe, do you have I've got a kind of like a less technical, just more of like a thought question. Like in the Aurora space right now, where do you see as one area where you think a lot of focus should be put to move the ecosystem forward? Kind of like, where's a blind spot that maybe people aren't focused on?
That's a great question. From my point of view, probably it is like among all of the different big things that are happening on other chains. I do believe that something that is closer is that it needs to be filled in Aurora is gaming. There are some games that are launched, but I cannot say that there are lots of traction there or lots of things happening. So I would encourage the companies who are building games for the blockchain actually come to Aurora and try out doing it. Just because Aurora has the lowest transaction fees in comparison with many other blockchains, with other L2 solutions for Ethereum, and the fastest transactions there too. So we are, have 1 second finality without any reworks of the networks and stuff like that. And from that point of view, I do believe that it's just a great soil for the blockchain gaming. I do believe that lots of innovation should be happening in blockchain gaming. There are some problems there, and but people need to constantly try, improve, and then we are going to get to better blockchain games.
Absolutely, man. Gaming is like, we're starting to like interview some people in that system and really starting to see what's being made. It's still a little bit of ways, but the stuff that's coming down the pipeline, like I feel like it totally works really well, especially with something with low fees, low transaction fees is key. And then you add in NFTs. That's one area, like you talked about, the Aurora bot had function. I think in gaming is where NFTs can definitely have use cases as well. So I like that you said that. I hope everybody just makes games. I want a ton of games. I want Joe and I to be a Twitch channel talking gaming all the time. I love.
Oh yeah. I was. I know that like back in school, I was playing some of the computer games, but then I grew older, and I still have had Steam installed, and I just remember that I was not having many time because I need to learn stuff. I was not having many time to play games, but I was looking at the games. Okay, this is a cool game. Okay, I can buy it, and I'm going to play it at some point in time. And I understand that, like right now, I understand that like some of these games I never played, but they were bought like 10 years ago. Like I don't think that I'm going to play them. So yeah, unfortunately, it's not very close to me at this position. But I understand why this actually makes lots of sense. I actually have one friend who is how to say it? He's a cyber sportsman, right? Or
like esports.
Nice.
He was
like
playing
competitive
esports, right? And he actually won the world championship with his team. So I fully understand, kind of his motivation and all this stuff. So this is super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Massive
cool.
industry. Oh man. Cool. I always can tell, I like talking to people who game, or because I don't get to game as much either. I have a kid and stuff, but I can always tell someone's era by what game that stuck with them. I really was into GoldenEye, and then Halo. So I'm that era, and then some people new, younger, like Red Dead.
My era was Lineage 2.
Okay, cool.
This is what we have been playing. Yeah, and it was in CS. There were no official servers for this, so it was like half code and half gaming. So you needed to find somebody who can run a Java server, and then something is not working, and then you really need it. Maybe you can go and code something. Find on some kind of Korean forums. Try to Google Translate what actually should be happening in that quest. That was fun.
That was a great time.
Cool, Joe. If you want to jump in.
Yeah, I don't have any more technical questions. Do you have anything else before we kind of?
Yeah, I guess is there anything that you would like to talk about when we also, if there's anything you want to talk about right now, we can bring that up now. And also we know that we had mentioned about the Ukraine war and how I didn't know if you wanted to talk about that, how in any form or not. We're good either way, whichever way.
Yeah. So the war was and is and continues to be a major thing that prevails the life of absolutely every Ukrainian out there. This is a very, very hard time for Ukraine, and I believe that's a failure of humanity. I know that our history is actually telling us that it's not a failure. That's something normal for humanity, and wars are happening all the time. It's just it was our luck. It was the luck of our fathers and mothers not to live during the wartime, after Second World War, and before kind of major things that are happening right now in Ukraine. And it was just the luck, but still that's super bad, and I'm absolutely against this. We're not supporting as Aurora, and personally we're supporting humanitarian initiatives. We're working with Unchained Fund. Me as a person, as Ukrainian citizens, besides humanitarian support, I'm providing the support to Ukrainian forces. I do believe that there are qualified people that are actually fighting for the freedom of my country, and if I can supply an additional helmet or a chest to them, then and then they can be more efficient in defending and live longer, then obviously I will do this. I know that for my country, the best thing that I can do right now is actually run the business, make sure that that this business is earning lots of money, and then from this money doing charity and doing donations to the funds that are actually kind of making the difference. From the personal money, from the beginning of the war, I donated already more than 100,000 on different initiatives, and I'm not stopping. I'm continuing, and I'm calling out to everybody who maybe kind of lost their faith a little bit and get used to war. You should not stop. You should every day remind yourself that this is the war without a reason. This is the war that is started by the mad old man that is trying to leave a footprint in the history, and he actually did it just next to Hitler. and you need to fight for the best of the world. And in case Ukrainians are not going to stop him, then probably this thing is going to escalate for the rest of the world. And it is in the interest of the whole world not let this happen. So that's kind of a big thing, right?
Sure.
My wife with the kids have been evacuating from Ukraine under bombings, with seeing the tanks, seeing the troops, and there is absolutely nothing fun in this. My cousin was heavily injured and almost lost his life. It was just a miracle that he is alive at the moment, and he was able to get to the rehabilitation to Germany. One of the friends of mine from the childhood, he was killed because of the bombing of the civilian part of the city, absolutely civilian part of the city of Kharkiv. I'm from Kharkiv. That is extremely bad, and I'm not an expert in all of these things, but I really believe in the global justice. I do understand that type of things is not something that should be happening, and because of this, I am not comfortable with it, and I hope that everybody who are responsible for this, they are going to pay for this and for all of the sorrow that they're causing to the world and lots of families. That's my point of view on my personal point of view on the situation. I can tell how it is different for Aurora itself. Aurora blockchain is trustless, permissionless. There is no limitation on who is capable of using it. That's the core of the technology. Aurora Labs, though, is the development company, and our position on this is that we are not working neither with individuals or with counterparties who are paying taxes in the Russian Federation. We are not going to spend our money on funding this war. And in case you would like to work with us, well, you need to figure out the way how you are not connected with paying taxes in Russian Federation, or just transferring money to state. Sure. That's it. That's our position.
I can't even begin to imagine what this is like. How do you, if you don't mind me asking, I mean, how you and your team just find that, I guess, mental fortitude to actually even still go to work? I know you said it's important to try to make money and be able to give back, but despite that, I got to imagine that pressure and that thought of your friends, family, just is probably overwhelming at times. Is it more about you get a community thing where you work together?
We did not find forces to go to work. Mm-hmm. The first month of the war, all of the efforts of the team were focused on making sure that people from our team and the relatives who are still living in Ukraine, even in case these people are outside of Ukraine, and that everybody are able to get to safety. And this holds true. We have been working for two ecosystems. We have been working for NEAR and for Aurora too. Mm-hmm. Literally the majority of our operations were around this. We were trying to we suddenly became experts in humanitarian help that we started to supply from Poland, from Romania. Then we suddenly became an expert of tracking where things are happening and what are the routes and what are the safe roads, which roads are not safe. We suddenly became the experts of the hotel business and figuring out where people can stay for the night. But this is something that we needed to do in order to save our people. I'm proud to say that everybody who wanted to get out to a more safer place, that have been requesting the help from Aurora and NEAR Inc. and NEAR Foundation. We were able to serve all of them. Nobody was injured. Everybody got to the safety. Yes, and this is all because of literally. This is all because of the Aurora Labs team, who have been putting all of the forces in order to take care of the closest people. Now, my big respect to Ilya for organizing an Unchained Fund, and this is the fund which is actually supporting a pretty wide community. So it's not only focused on NEAR and Aurora ecosystem, but rather helping everyone in Ukraine. At first, it was many different activities, but right now this fund is focused on helping women who needed to go abroad, and they just with children, and they do not have just means to exist in Europe, so they need to get some support. So big respect that we as an ecosystem can take care not only about ourselves, but we actually can take care of people outside too.
Yeah. No, that's I mean, it's such a bad situation. It's nice to hear a story that you guys were able to do that. And we'll certainly make sure that we share the link for Unchained Fund. I know that's been going around a lot, and hopefully we can get some resolution soon.
Yeah, and also big thanks to everybody who support Ukraine, whether individually or as a citizens of the country who support. Still, it takes some time for me. I'm obviously checking the news, and the news of the other day of Vinnytsia is just devastating. There are 3 people that are working in Aurora, which native town is Vinnytsia. Yeah, they are also not in a very good condition at the moment. They're checking on the friends whether they are injured or not. Sure. So yeah, so thanks to everybody who support. Thanks to the governments who support and supply heavy artillery and machinery and different advanced tactical systems. My only wish is just to end this as soon as possible and stop people dying. Yep, and then we can actually, get and use all of these advanced systems that we're building when we become a little bit less like animals in this world.
Man, thanks for sharing. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean,
no problem. It's not your fault. It's the other person who should be sorry.
I know, but yeah,
but it would not be enough. It would not be enough at all.
Yeah,
no, definitely not. Well, I hate to end it kind of on a little bit of a down note here, but I really appreciate your candidness with all of this. We wish nothing but the best for your team and your family. And really, I hope people learn something from this. Your time with us today was super generous, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and use some of your pull to get an Aurora bot. I think you deserve one. Like, it's decentralized, but let's
I can let me earn money, get to endemic, and actually buy one.
There you go.
Okay. Cool. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Joseph.
Thanks. All right. Take care, Alex.
Take care.
Thanks.
Bye.
Ready Layer 1 is provided for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes only, without any express or implied warranty of any kind, including warranties of accuracy, completeness, or fitness for any particular purpose.
You should not make any decision, financial, investment, trading, or otherwise based on any of the information presented in this podcast without undertaking independent due diligence and consultation with a professional broker or financial advisory.